somewhere in the Mississippi Delta. Right now, a farm the size of Manhattan is producing another year of record profit. The wheat is real. The soil is real. The harvest is real. But the owner has never touched that dirt. He has never walked those rows. Not once. He is not a farmer. He is not a rancher. He is one of the richest men who has ever lived, and his farmland empire is bigger than the state of Delaware. Here's the part that should unsettle you. He's not breaking any law. He's not hiding anything. He's simply doing what the smartest money in the world already figured out. Farmland is not just food. Farmland is an asset class. And most people have been locked out of it for 50 years. Stick with me. His name is coming. But first, you need to see the machine that made this possible. Because this billionaire didn't invent this system. He just showed up 50 years late and bought the wreckage. So who built it? The story starts in 1973, in a Washington office most Americans have never heard of. Nixon's Secretary of Agriculture was a blunt, sharp-tongued economist named Earl Butz. He had a plan: feed the world, win the Cold War, with grain. His instruction to American farmers was simple: plant fence row to fence row. Get big, he said, or get out. It sounds like a slogan. It was actually a blueprint for the next 50 years of land ownership. For a few golden years, it worked. By 1974, for the first time in recorded history, the average American farmer earned more than the average city worker. Land prices climbed. Grain exports boomed. Banks lined up to lend. Farmers were told again and again that land could only go up. Trade magazines called dirt black gold. So farmers did what any rational person does when an asset seems to only rise. They borrowed against it. They used the rising value of their own land as collateral for more land. This is the moment nobody talks about. The quiet structural origin point. Farmland stopped being a workplace. It became a leveraged financial asset. Years before Wall Street ever noticed, land values in Iowa and Illinois nearly tripled in less than a decade. Farmers weren't just borrowing to expand anymore. They were borrowing against equity that existed only on paper. By the end of the decade, American farm debt had climbed past $165 billion. This wasn't organic growth. This was a bubble. And every bubble in economic history needs only one thing to break it: one shock. That shock arrived in October 1979. Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker made a decision that would reshape rural America forever. To crush runaway inflation, he raised interest rates. Again and again. By 1981, interest rates hit 21.5%, the highest rate recorded since the Civil War. At the same time, President Carter cut off grain exports to the Soviet Union, a major market, gone almost overnight. Then drought hit. In 1983, and again in 1988, farmers who had borrowed against rising land values now faced double-digit interest and collapsing exports at the exact same moment. The collateral behind all that debt, the land itself, began to crash. So what happens when the ground underneath a farmer's entire life just stops holding weight? Picture a Tuesday morning, a small Midwestern courthouse, sometime around 1985. Folding chairs, an auctioneer with a clipboard, a crowd of neighbours standing quietly. Hats off. Somewhere in that crowd is the family who worked this land for 3 generations. They are not there to bid. They are there to watch it end. The auctioneer reads the terms. The gavel falls. A piece of paper changes hands for less than the family owed on it. This scene played out, county by county, for most of a decade. By the mid-1980s, 1/3 of American farms held 2/3 of all farm debt. The math stopped working. The foreclosures began. Through the 1980s, roughly 300,000 farming operations went out of business. Not a statistic, a generation. Families who worked the same land for 3, 4, 5 generations. Lost it in a single hearing. Small towns emptied out. Local banks failed. Main Street failed with them. The land didn't disappear. It just changed hands. It moved from the families who lived on it to the largest, most solvent operations left standing. They bought it for pennies on the dollar. Washington did respond, eventually. Relief programs, new farm bills. But here's the uncomfortable truth those programs revealed. They were never built to save the smallest farms. Today, the top 10% of subsidy recipients collect nearly 2/3 of all commodity payments. Some have collected checks for over 40 consecutive years, without living on a farm. The structure rewards scale, it always has. So every relief package, every new farm bill, reinforces the exact consolidation it claims to fix. Aid flows to the biggest operations, and the biggest operations get bigger. If the system was built to save the family farm, why did it keep doing the opposite for 50 straight years? Now, back to that billionaire. His name is Bill Gates. Through his investment vehicle, Cascade Investment, Gates has quietly assembled roughly 275,000 acres of American farmland. That makes him the largest private farmland owner in the entire country. And he is not alone. Pension funds, insurance companies, private equity firms, billions of dollars poured into farmland over the past decade. Farmland has become what economists call an uncorrelated asset. It doesn't move with stocks. It doesn't move with bonds. It just quietly appreciates. Decade after decade, almost immune to recession. For institutions, this is the ultimate hedge. For a young person trying to start a farm, it means one thing: competing against sovereign wealth funds for the same acre of dirt. Here's where this connects back to you. Whether you've ever set foot on a farm or not, the average American farmer today is 58 years old. Fewer than 6% of farm operators are under 35. Meanwhile, the price of a single acre of quality farmland has quietly outpaced wages. For decades. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same trap playing out in housing, in equity markets, in almost every hard asset you can name. So let's make this real. Let's put two people side by side. Person one gets a raise. She upgrades her apartment, leases a nicer car. Her income finally feels comfortable. 10 years pass. She owns none of it. It was never built to be owned. It was built to be spent. Person two takes a smaller amount and buys something that appreciates. Farmland, an index fund, a rental unit. Boring. No visible upgrade this year. Or next year. 10 years pass. Person one still has the nicer lifestyle. Person two now owns something worth more than she paid for it. Quietly. Without doing anything at all. That's the entire difference between an income asset and an appreciating asset. Nobody puts that on a billboard. Because nobody profits from you understanding it. And that's exactly why Bill Gates doesn't own farmland to eat the wheat. He owns it because it behaves nothing like a paycheck. It behaves like the one asset class most people were never invited to the table for. The institutions didn't discover a secret. They just read the fine print the rest of us skipped. So here's the uncomfortable truth this story leaves behind. The social contract that once linked hard work to land ownership was quietly rewritten 50 years ago. In a Washington office, it has never been rewritten back. The dirt beneath American agriculture is now a global financial instrument. And the people who farm it, increasingly, are not the people who own it. That gap isn't closing. It's widening. 1 acre, 1 balance sheet at a time. And here's what should actually bother you. If this happened to farmland quietly for 50 years, while almost nobody was watching, what makes you think it isn't happening right now? In an asset you already touch every single day, we've already traced the same mechanism through housing, through healthcare. Next, we go inside the exact vehicle institutions use to do this at scale. The farmland REIT, and how an ordinary person can finally stand on the other side of that gavel, instead of watching it fall. Subscribe, because the next system I map might be one you're